We want to be more heavily based on the not mets so that we're constantly bringing people into that sphere of influence.
I love that. Give me a model. Give me something to grab onto.
It is practice. It is dialogues. It is putting in the hours. And it's something we're still learning and folding into our business on a daily basis.
Man, I think that's so refreshing and so powerful. I want to jump into this, but let's go a different style than usual, right? Because we could talk about the 400 units and the 200 million. We could do all that. We will. Before we do that, though, I want to go from cradle to realtor. Not realtor to mega super realtor or tech entrepreneur or all the other things that you're doing. But in 2 minutes or less, give me cradle to realtor. How did we end up here in this industry together?
Yeah, that's a great question. A fun story. So I was born and raised in Lubbock, Texas. My father is an entrepreneur. He took over a fledgling publishing business. If you remember Yellow Page ads, do you remember those? Like phone books?
Yeah.
So he published telephone directories for colleges and for retirement communities. So as I got into high school and stopped cutting lawns, I started selling Yellow Page ads. My mother was a nurse, and so she was working around the clock. And so I think those two things really built in me like a sales ethos and a work ethic, with, a vein of entrepreneurship in there. So do that through high school, go to college, get an internship at probably one of the most traditional places I could at Bell Helicopter. Went back to selling Yellow Page ads after I graduated college and got tired of living out of my trunk. So I called my mentor from Bell and said, hey, I'd like to put down roots somewhere. And she said, yeah, I got a job for you in DC. So I moved from Texas to DC, and I did about 7 years in the consulting industry, predominantly DoD consulting. Moved and did a little bit of a stint at the Library of Congress. And, I love librarians. I love government contractors. But when you put the two of them together, it's kind of like making a cross between a snail and a turtle as far as like the pace of life. And that just didn't work for me. So I started doing some volunteer work on a green roofing job, and I really liked it. So I took project management background that I was using for software development and stuff like that and applied it to construction. We would build roof gardens basically on universities. We did one on the Dirksen building of the Senate. We did them on some residences, stuff like that. But I took a 60% pay cut when I left the library and I went to go work for this green roofing nonprofit. And I had a good buddy that said, you should get your real estate license. And with a little bit of, forethought and kind of input from my folks who had started to buy some rental properties, they said, yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you do that? So I thought I would have the real estate agent side hustle. And I did. I was what we call dual career, part-time agent for about a year and a half, 2 years. My wife and I had our first child. I looked up, I had a kid and 2 jobs. And I was like, this isn't what I planned for. I'm looking for 2 kids and 1 job. So I kind of weighed my options and said, do I have more of an entrepreneurial future in green roofing or in real estate? And real estate was the option.
That's absolutely tremendous. So this idea of your journey providing you the sales ethos and the work ethic, and those two things coming together, I got to tell you, man, I can't think of a better equation for a residential real estate agent than those two things colliding. I love that. So as you look up when you started and you're doing dual career, the majority of the folks that I know that do that, their business is based on the people they know, their sphere of influence, customers, and referrals. Was that your story as well?
Absolutely. It was people that I knew from the other parts of my life. And as I started to work with them, I really felt like I had this responsibility to give them, the utmost attention and the highest level of service and care. And I found that personally a little challenging. And so that was part of the evolution in moving into a full-time agent. I also realized that for, DC, it was tough to do 2 or 3 transactions a year. And it's probably this way in most of the country. And actually have that be enough, to put the potatoes and the carrots, right next to the main course of the meal. And so that was part of the evolution and kind of spooling things up.
So did that end up becoming the core of your business once you went full time? Or were you a sphere of influence guy? Were you a repeat and referral guy? Is that how it happened?
Absolutely. I mean, it was that. And then it was just kind of hustling open houses. Open houses were a really big piece at the beginning. When you're 24, 25 years old, you don't know a ton of people in your sphere that are buying houses, and you probably know 0 that are selling. And so that's what it was. It was, hey, the people that are on the early side of this curve that are ready to buy a condo or ready to buy their starter home in DC, I would work with them. And then the rest of it just came from picking up open houses from more senior listing agents that were in the brokerage.
So as the business has scaled to this giant conglomerate thing that you have now, is it still, when you look up at the sources of the deals that you're closing, do you guys skew heavy to SOI and referral? Like, is that
Yeah,
still kind of the mainstay foundation for Fulcrum?
it really is. Yeah, it to this day is. And to the point where actually I feel like we're going through this evolution right now where we want to be less based on sphere of influence. We want to be more heavily based on the not mets so that we're constantly bringing people into that sphere of influence. And I think that as you build a team, it helps you create that balance between, serving the people that but also serving new leads and new transactions into the existing agent community. It was a lesson that we learned over the last couple of years where, I think in full transparency, 2021 and 2022, most agents on the planet had their best years ever, the best years of their career. We actually went backwards for the last 2 years. And I think a lot of that was because we were so heavily based on sphere of influence and the spheres of influence of the agents within our team that when they looked up and said, I think I want to try this a different way, I think I want to try it on my own, we were left holding an empty bag. And so coming back to conversations that, I've had with Gary that have been in the room for, we looked up at that equation and said, there's what Gary calls cake and icing. We were a lot of icing and not a lot of cake. And so we're coming back to the drawing board going, all right, man, where's the flour? Where's the sugar? Where's the butter? How do we make our cake?
So this 170 million is the down year. This is that's what.
Yeah, it is the down year. I will say, and one of the things that I think we talked about a little bit was like, what do we do really well? And I think that does speak to the level of consistency that we have, right? So if we're not generating the leads for our agents yet at the level that we want to, at least we're providing the support, the culture, the infrastructure, the community, to connect those people and to hold on to a vast majority of them.
So if I'm sitting out there in TV land and I'm watching and I say, gosh, I want to have that sphere of influence based business, or I want to get better at converting these new people that are into the data bank, or I need to get more consistent. Give me a model. Give me something to grab onto, Ty, so that I can leave here and actually take some action. How should I be thinking about one of these things?
Yeah. Well, so being in Washington, D.C. and looking back at this week, I don't know if you're a baseball fan or not, but the Nationals just traded away arguably the greatest hitter since Ted Williams.
Yep.
And it was it hurt, right? But it was probably the right thing for them to do. But when I look at it, I think that, there's a lot of similarity between sport and between, business. And when you look at somebody like Juan Soto, who's due to make $500 million on his next contract, look at where he spends his time. The amount of time that he actually spends playing versus practicing is heavily skewed to practice, right? The amount of reps that he gets in the cage is incredible. The amount of balls that he watches versus strikes he swings at is disproportionate as well. And so I think when you translate that into business, if you look for a model, it is script practice, it is dialogues, it is putting in the hours where you're not practicing on your clients. And that was a really big lesson for us. And it's something we're still learning and folding into our business on a daily basis.
Man, I think that's so refreshing and so powerful. Okay, I love that. So if I want to start mastering that, how do you guys think about dialogue practice and conversation practice? Am I doing that in front of a mirror? Am I recording myself? What dialogue should I be practicing? Coach me through this, Ty, as if you were coaching me.
So I think it's all of it. So rather than coaching you through it, I'll tell you what we're doing and the results that are coming from that. So I know it's standard practice for a lot of teams to start their day with a daily huddle. We do the same thing. Our huddle starts, it's 15 minutes in the morning, but that 15 minutes is not scripts and dialogues. It's about mindset first. So it's just inspiration. What's going well for you? Maybe it's cat videos. Maybe that's your thing and you want to share cat videos with the team to get everybody kind of laughing and loosened up, whatever it is. But we rotate that responsibility on a daily basis just for 15 minutes to get in a relaxed headspace. And then it is scripts and dialogues for about an hour. And it's the same script, that we're working together, and it's two people scripting and everybody else listening, and those two seats just rotate of who's in the conversation, right? So that's a daily piece that's been ongoing for years, and it allows us to move throughout different consultation pieces, through objection handling, conversion, whatever we want to.
Can you walk me through kind of the makeup of that hour on dialogues? Is it, look, it's easy for me to time block an hour. It's difficult for me to know what the heck to do during it. So what happens during that hour? Or is someone reading one dialogue and then we're all practicing that? Or how do you think about it? And I know that they might all be different, but what are the core elements?
Somebody will come in, and then they'll dialogue it. Then they'll practice, right? So Shelly will be the agent. Sam will be the guest. They'll go through it once, and then they'll switch. Sam will be the agent, and Blair will be the guest. And then they'll switch. Blair will be the agent, and Tom will be the guest. And so that's how we go through it. That's the order of show, if you will.
I love this, man. This idea of we're going to practice the thing that matters most. And in the sales business, that's going to be the words that we use to bring people into action faster with us than without us.
That's exactly
It's really
right.
simplistic, but it's brilliant, I think.
It is. So another thing that I want to jump in before we move on, another thing that I'm really excited about that we're starting is we're actually starting a certification course within our team. So as we start to build team-based listing leads in particular, we don't want those listing leads going out to just anybody on the team. It's not a round robin basis, but you need to earn the right to go on that listing appointment. And so what we've done is we've spent the last 5-6 months, our in-house coach, Nicole, has, of building a listing playbook, right? Like, what's the process that a seller is going to go through, and then building a set of scripts and a set of standards that every agent has to achieve in order to be able to go on that listing appointment. And then what we do is we have 6 different location leaders. Those location leaders pair up into groups of 2, and the agents prepare for a listing appointment where those 2 location leaders are the sellers. And we do a mock listing presentation, and the agent has to pass that listing presentation in order to be able to be certified and then go on the listing appointments.
Man, that's good. And are agents on your team, are they representing both buyers and sellers, or do you all specialize where you're a buyer's agent or you're a listing agent?
We do general agency, right? So it's buyers and sellers. Typically, you're not grabbing listings until they're either coming from your sphere or you get the reps and the seniority and then become certified in order to get the team-based listing leads.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are a follower of this show, then you know what just happened. We just had 2 model moments in a row. Our first model moment is this idea around practicing. So let's just hit it. Ty's saying, look, we start the day. It's going to be 15 minutes. It's going to be motivational. Whatever gets you going and blows your hair back, that's what you got to do, because that is the inspiration that then drives the next hour, which is the perspiration, which is we're going to practice what matter most. That's the words that we say. That's going to be an hour focused around one specific conversation so that we can all get mastery. Dude, I absolutely love that. Okay, I want to switch gears for a second here. I want to talk, if you don't mind, if it wouldn't offend you, I want to talk about this kind of tech entrepreneur side of you. You're building technology businesses, and you don't get nearly enough credit for that because you do it so quietly. Can you walk me through your thought process? How did you take a simple idea for your team and turn it into a piece of scalable technology that you are considering releasing to the industry?
Yeah. So I can't take credit for the idea. I can't, take credit for much of the implementation, but there's a little bit of facilitation that it did help with. So part of it is background. I mean, we started the conversation with what was the road to real estate like. And when I went to school, I got a degree in something called electronic business, which in 1990 whatever was this kind of fuzzy thing about like, oh, how do you make databases and web pages talk to each other? And so that was where I kind of cut my teeth. Moved in and have always enjoyed just that side of the business environment, the technology side. But I was never really good at practically executing it. Like, I could theoretically get it, and I worked at a liaison basis pretty well, but I was never the guy packing the keys and could make it work. So that was the background, and really kind of coming down to Austin and being involved in labs is what sparked the renewed interest for me. I was having those 2 years, that year and a half, more fun than I had ever had before in my career. And as that was going on, my business partner, Tom, was having some conversations just about what do we do in our business that is really routine, should be easier, and that we don't do consistently enough. And for us, it was reward people that send us referrals. We don't gift well enough. We don't know enough about our clients. We don't keep up enough data about them so that we can personally connect in the way that we want to. And then when they do send us, business, that's the lifeblood of our existence. We don't thank them loudly and honestly enough. Right? It's certainly not consistently enough. So we took those ideas and we basically said, how do we make this what do we do to create the simple button, the easy button for this? And so we started sketching this idea for a product called Giftware. And basically where we are with it right now is a minimum viable product that syncs your database with what's, your telephone book in your phone. And anytime somebody sends you a referral, or it's their birthday or whatever, you saw them walking an old lady across the street, you can pull up their name, tap it, and send them a gift. And that gift can be personalized based on what they're into, right? So let's say it's the first time you've ever used it. I want to send you something.
Well, you do, because I went through your beta the other day. You now know exactly what I want. And I got to be honest with you, Ty, I've been running to the mailbox every day for the last 3 weeks now. And I know, I feel like there's some things coming basically around camping and fine dining, just if I had to guess.
Yes, that's it. It's the anticipation is fun too, right? So hopefully you got a text message that said, "Hey Jason, are you into coffee? Swipe right if yes, swipe left if no." Which there's a dating app that this is based on too, which people have a lot of fun with. So yeah, it's kind of like Tinder for gifting.
The cool thing about it. Oh, and I started to I really enjoyed the process, because I'm going through and it said, the first one I didn't really get what I was doing. It said, "Do you like blank?" And I was like, I guess swipe right. But then when I figured out, it took me to maybe the third question, that I was kind of creating a profile and I was letting you know what I liked. I found myself really thinking about it, because I was like, look, I got to be really careful here, because if I let him know that I like sports and I don't, I'm going to get the wrong gift in the mail. And dude, I got sucked into this thing. And before you knew it, it was like, it went from being something I was doing on the side to something I was focusing on. And I had a ball going through it.
Good. Well, that's the goal. The other goal is, before that, I had your name and your email address. Now I know where you live and what your phone number is too. And in the world of real estate, those pieces of information are critically important.
Man, it's so good. Well, look, I know that you guys are in beta, and you're just, if someone, I know there's a bunch of people watching this and they're like, I need that. How do they get more about the product? How do they reach you? What's the call to action?
Just send me an email and let's have a conversation about it. You can send me an email at ty@fulcrumpg.com. That's it.
It's awesome, dude. I by the way, I think it's one of the coolest little pieces of tech that I never knew that I needed until I saw it. And as soon as I saw it, because I run a real estate team, I knew right then I needed it. So I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time in the show. So Ty, when we wind these things down, I try to give a title to every interview that we do. Now, admittedly, I'm totally rubbish at this. And half of the people that I'm interviewing say, I hate your title and I never liked you anyway, which would be so awkward because I consider you a friend. That said, I'm going to try to title this. And I got to tell you, man, it isn't popping into my head like some of the others, because you're so multidimensional. But here, I'm going to throw it out here, and if you hate it, you'll tell me. But I want to call it Real Estate's Not Enough. And the reason I want to call it that, dude, is because I know that you're doing a ton with philanthropy. I know that you're doing a ton in the technology world. I know that you're doing a ton locally in other businesses. But what I think is so cool about what you've done, you have this real estate business that is the center of this thing. And it's allowing you to go do all of these other things. And you're doing more than most people I know. So how do you feel about that title?
I'm in. I love it. And it's exactly right. Real estate, what the fundamental idea behind Fulcrum was, it's this point in the middle that you can do a whole lot with. It's a piece of leverage, right? It's a point of leverage. And it's just what the real estate agent is. The real estate agent is the connection to all of these people in their community. That was our goal. And we're just, rather than doing that with individual people in a community, it's trying to tie communities of people together. So there you go. I love it. Nailed
I
it.
love it too. Last question before we let you go. At this point, man, I mean, you're living a huge business and a huge life. You can kind of live anywhere you want. You can drive anything you want. You can go anywhere you want on vacation. Like you have all of this. What's still getting you up at 5 a.m. and this pursuit of growth? Like what's driving this behavior? Because you could have called it good a year ago and just hang on at the
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah. What's actually, I am hanging out at the farm. So, um, you know, about 2 years ago, I woke up and I realized that I had an opportunity to make an influence on who my kids are in a way that wasn't like an influence that wasn't made on me. And that's it. Right. A lot of people, think about legacy and what legacy is and means to them. And I don't think there's any wrong answer to it. But if I have one specific thing that I can leave, it's just having kids that are courageous and kind. And like, those are the two pieces for me, that they have courage and that they have kindness. And how do I give that to them as an example? Because that example is going to be so much bigger than words, right? And they're not going to listen to my words in a couple of years anyway. So that's it.
It's so good. It's so good. Hey, everybody, if you like that, there is so much more. Click here right now to watch more of them. But before you do, pound that subscribe button. That helps the channel. It helps us help more people. Remember, when you give, you get. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and then we can keep giving. Friends, click here now.